SEO for Wix. In today's Learning SEO Accelerator Q&A, we have Morty Oberstein, who works at Wix, who's a very knowledgeable and experienced SEO, and we are going to go through him with the most important, most critical aspects of doing SEO in a Wix platform, in a web based on Wix, what we should look for, what are the main configurations, the top do's and don'ts, what are the worst mistakes that he sees people doing with Wix on a day-to-day basis when optimizing for organic search. And I'm delighted to have him here because he's very knowledgeable, and I'm sure that we'll be able to tackle most of the doubts that are out there about using Wix as a platform in order to grow the organic search visibility of websites. So thank you very much, Morty, for joining us today.
My pleasure. It's so nice being here.
So let's start a little bit with the conversation. We already had a session about doing SEO in web based on WordPress, and today we want to talk about how it is to do SEO with a Wix-based platform. And I have to say something, right? If we were doing this same session like 2 or 3 years ago, the reality will have been very, very different, because Wix has been able to, let's say, completely change the perception and realistically the value and functionalities that it provides as a platform for SEOs, right? I had the chance a year ago or so to switch my own consultancy, SEO consultancy website to Wix. I play with the tool, with the functionality of the tool that realistically is so very easy to access and to configure, even for non-technical people, for non-SEOs, for non-web developers, from optimizing titles, meta description, configuring meta robots, canonical tags, structured data, implementation. It really, really impressed me. Also from a structural perspective, the taxonomy, how it allows you to organize the website in a way that actually makes sense and will connect with a keyword research that you can do. It also offers a lot of insights with integration with the Google Search Console too, with many third-party tools. So to start the conversation, I would like to start by asking Morty, who has all the insights at this point. What would you say that are the pros and cons of using Wix from an SEO standpoint versus other platforms? Where does it stand? For which scenarios you will highly, highly recommend users to use Wix, and for which you will say that is not quite yet there, but might be in the future?
So maybe I think like a global step back, right? Like there's basically open platforms and there's closed platforms. There's like WordPress, which is open, and you have like, Wix, Shopify, which are closed. And they fundamentally let you do different things. And we were talking before, like, I don't think there's no such thing as a perfect tool, a perfect CMS. We all have things that we could be doing better. We all have things that we do really great things at. And I think one of the things to realize is that all the things are an opportunity cost. So like, this is the best CMS or that's the best CMS. It's what's the best CMS for the right scenario for my particular needs. So I'll give you like an example. Right. So with Wix, you can't optimize, or you can't rather access the HTML. Right? We don't let you, as a concept, we don't let you access the HTML, which, by the way, doesn't mean that you can add, let's say, custom scripts or add custom code to a website. You absolutely can, but you can't manipulate the HTML like you could on WordPress. So people will look at like, oh, that's automatically bad. And from a very small way of looking at it, that is right. You want to be able to access the HTML, but the fact that it's closed off also means that we understand the page, completely understand the page. It's our page, right? We created the page, which means that we can do things like auto redirects, or which means that we can do things like automatically add structured data markup to a page. So it's all a matter of like, what's the opportunity cost? Yes, you lose the access to the HTML, but you don't have to worry about implementing redirect in certain page types. So I think conceptually, it's really important to understand, like, it's not good or bad. Is that what does the platform allow you to do because it does X or it doesn't do X? From an SEO point of view, I think for the most part, like all of the basic fundamental things are all there. I think at this point, I'll go on a limb and say most of the CMSs have that. You can add title tags, you can add meta descriptions, all like the very, very basic sort of things. I think as a concept, like the CMS has really advanced as a whole over the past, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. I think in terms of using Wix from a purely SEO point of view, you're really it's pretty rare to find a case where you're gonna be like, okay, like that's gonna be a real issue for me. I shouldn't use Wix from the SEO point of view. I think where it comes into play, should I use Wix or should I not use Wix, or really any builder at this point, for the most part, it comes in from like the wider activities that you want to do on the website, or scaling things. Like, how easy is it to do this on Wix, and how hard is it to do this on Wix? Or if I'm from an SEO point of view, or just from a website creation or a marketing point of view, how easy is it to do? Can I do this sort of thing? So I'll give you a case, like, like my cousin came to me a couple of weeks ago. He wanted to do some like crazy thing, like dynamically take like information from a database that dynamically create pages that dynamically did that. And you could do a lot of dynamic things on Wix. We have a full stack dev tool. You can manipulate all the JavaScript. There's a lot you can do from a coding point of view. But that particular use case, I asked the team, like, can we do this? They're like, not really. So there are a lot of these like edge cases, I'll say, like, you need to really investigate before you decide to use Wix, whether or not Wix is capable of doing it or not doing it. But outside of the edge cases, for the most part, it's like hard to me imagine every scenario, but for the most part, there really isn't much that you wouldn't be able to do on any other platform. With, again, like, there are smaller things, like you can't access the server, right? You can't, like, so if your model, if you're an agency, your business model is heavily built on web hosting, that's just not going to work for you. But again, it's all like opportunity costs, right? Because we handle the security for you and we handle the hosting for you, you don't have to worry about that. It also means if you're an agency, for example, just to go with that model, you don't have to charge your client for that. So you can charge them less, or you could take that money that you would have charged them and you could do more content or more PPC or more social media marketing, that sort of thing.
That's great. Also, I have to say, I was very impressed also with all of the features that you release for e-commerce, right? So it's not only that you're able, or at this point, Wix is able to handle static websites only, like, for example, an agency website that will be in general pretty static, right? And will only update the blog with certain frequency, but also you're able to handle publications, transactional websites like e-commerce too. So there's a lot of functionality about that too, where you also have been able to implement or align important SEO configurations, right? So for example, with the Google products feeds, if I remember well, you already have an integration, right?
Yeah, we do a lot with Google. We have a direct integration with Google Business Profile. It's not in an API. We have an actual partnership with them. I'll tell you like a little bit of a secret. Like, I mean, it's not as big of a deal now because Google has gotten better at this. But like in the UK, you can instantly verify your business through Wix when you set up the Google Business Profile. I mean, like, that's not a big deal. It's only in the UK. And you could probably do this like now they let you take videos, and now they're talking about like if you show customers in your business or you and your customer, like you'll get instant verification. It's not that big of a deal, in my opinion, anymore, the way that it once was. But it just kind of shows that when we integrate natively with the provider. So Google Merchant Center, Google Analytics, Search Console, we have a ton with Search Console, and it's all kind of inbuilt. So we automatically, when you connect through Wix to Search Console, after you handle some of the basic SEO tasks, we have a partnership with Google where they instantly index the homepage, which is great because while they're crawling the homepage, they're probably going to crawl half the other site. We integrated their URL inspection API, so you can inspect all of the, I'm probably answering the questions out of order, I apologize. But if you're using Wix, this is probably the best tool we have, in my personal opinion. For my personal use case, if you have other use cases, it's probably tools that are way more important than this, but I love this tool. You can inspect your site in one click. So you can see indexability, mobile friendly status, basically a result status in a click, because we're pulling in the API, and as opposed to you telling Google, here's all the URLs I want you to check, we automatically give Google the URLs. So you just have to click and you can see all the indexation status. So that's pretty cool. But again, like there's so much that goes into like choosing a platform. Like on the e-commerce side, there's a ton that you need to consider. And if are you an e-com, are you a strict e-com, or are you an e-com that does bookings, or are you e-com that has blog? Like, those are big questions you have to think about.
Yeah. So for example, one of the major e-commerce, let's say, requirements from a crawlability and indexability standpoint to ensure that everything is, well, assessed and accessible correctly in using or following the product status in the inventory of the website is the ability to set rules, right? Which I have to say, shockingly, this is something that not all big online stores necessarily have or have done well. You might be shocked about this, but it's something that platforms like Wix, for example, already are able to handle, right? Like dynamic redirects based on availability of a product. For example, your product has gone out of stock, permanent is not expected to come back. The product page is going to be able to be 201 redirected to the category page, and internal links are not going to point there, and XML sitemaps inclusions are going to be refreshed and going to be included anymore, etc. Right?
So again, like that's another like pros and cons kind of thing. Like, so we automatically optimize a sitemap for you. You can set up like a HTML sitemap, of course, to do whatever you want. For the XML sitemap, we handle that. You don't have access to it, but it also means that we're responsible for optimizing it for you, which we do. So, for example, we make sure that if there's more than 10,000 URLs in the site, we create another folder, right? There's a lot that we do to optimize the sitemap that you don't have to worry about, but it also means that you don't have access to it. So again, it's a give and take. So if a product goes out of stock, right, we take care of that. If you're integrated with Google Merchant Center through us, we take care of that on that site also. But with that, I'll just say on the e-com side, one of the things that we do want to do, so we let you customize the URLs at the folder level for blog pages. For example, so I want to change my blog, like my personal website, like I don't want to call it posts. I want to call them podcast episodes. So I can do that on Wix, which is very rare, by the way, for a closed CMS. You can also do it for products. The problem with the products in doing this is, and we're in the middle of fixing this, is that we don't have category pages. So you can't fully customize a URL, not because of the SEO side. Like, we allow for the customization of the URL at the folder level. Wix just doesn't support some of those folders yet. Like, we can't, like Shopify, you can't have category pages. So there are things like knowing the details are important, and like I think being transparent about them as a platform is really important, because if you're doing SEO and you're working on the e-com side, and you say, you know what, Wix, I'm going to choose you regardless because I think you're great for all of these things. I'm not really so worried about the category page. I can't do them on Shopify anyway. Fine. But at least know that up front, so you don't spend your time trying to figure out, how do I do this? You currently can't do it. Although in some cases where it's slowly being released where you can, and I hope relatively soon you'll have like full access to customize all category pages. You will have category pages on Wix. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I'm saying it anyway. We're working on it.
Amazing. Well, that's great to hear. Thank you very much for that bit of an advice and insights to have this additional criteria when making a decision. Something extra also before moving on to the next point that I think that is important. You mentioned having the URL inspect feature directly there natively, which I think is a big win in order to understand if a page is being really indexed at all by Google, and how it is shown, etc., and how it is seen by the Google bot. There's one thing that I believe that tends to highly influence the indexability of a page at this point, which is if the page completely relies on client-side render JavaScript to be shown. I know that Wix offers a variety of templates of all types, right? I know that, for example, the one that I use for my own consultancy website, I remember back in the day, one of the first things that I asked you and ask is that, please, let's avoid relying on client-side render JavaScript as much as possible, unless it is strictly necessary, right? And I know that this can change from template to template, right? What is the share, you will say, or the percentage of templates that actually over-rely, I will say, on JavaScript to feature major elements on the page? So the navigation, the core content, the metadata, for example, because I think that is something that also plays a big role. A lot of very, very good looking templates out there from other platforms are amazing, but they tend to over rely a lot of on this, which ends up hurting the sites in crawlability and indexability, right?
Yeah, and so okay, on the Wix side, so everything is server-side rendering. There's no difference between the actual templates themselves. The only scenario you run into dynamic rendering, and I forget which ones they are, some obscure products. Wix has, we don't have like plugins, but for example, the Wix blog is an add-on. So I build a website, and I would say, you know what, I want a blog, and it's almost like an app. You add the Wix blog, you add a set of dynamic pages called blog pages to the website. There are some really obscure ones like podcast pages. I don't remember which one in particular that use dynamic rendering. So like 99.9 of everything is server-side rendering. There's some really obscure products that you're probably never even get into, but even those are dynamic rendering. So for the bots, they're getting server-side rendering done, and the client's getting the client-side rendering. But even that's very, very like minute. So we've really, a long time ago, we were not. We were client-side. Years and years ago, we were Flash originally, which we'll not talk about. But now everything is pretty much server-side rendering. You know, I think the only like issues you really get into with like the different templates would be like page speed kind of things. Some of the, like the newer templates that we create are obviously like far more optimized for performance, because like we're a performance first company. But if we had a template from 10 years ago, like no one was thinking about CLS 10 years ago kind of thing.
Yeah, so a bit of a tip here will be to try to look into templates that are newer, that might be better optimized for speed, and
it'll be better. In general, like they're better in general because like they're fresher, they're newer, they're
perfect, 100%.
More, I don't know, like on the right tone of what people are looking for.
Yeah, perfect. So moving on to the next questions, are there any common or overlooked Wix SEO, let's say, opportunities and even mistakes of things that people tend to do badly or configure badly or not configure at all, that is there for people to actually leverage, that you will highly advise for those starting to take a look at?
Yeah, I'll say like two things. And I've made this mistake. And remember Michelle Robbins, not to call her out on this, when she was on our advisor, we're making also the same mistake. And it's super easy. And it speaks to templates, like what a perfect pivot. If you're using a template, right? So the templates have multiple layers on them. And as you're customizing the template to your particular website and the particular content of your website, you might not realize, you might forget there's multiple layers of content on these templates. And you might, for example, take, like, say, a banner and overlay what used to be text. And often when there's a text field on a template, it'll be lorem ipsum text. But if you don't remove that text, you don't see it because you put a big banner over it, but Google sees it because it's still in the HTML. And I've done this because I've done this so many times with my own website. I go, oh, snap, there's a layer there and there's ipsum lorem text there, and I should get rid of that. So that's a very common design SEO-ish kind of mistake. The other one is that so we have a CMS, and the CMS uses dynamic pages, and they exist a little bit differently. It's something to understand about the Wix ecosystem, and I personally find it a little bit annoying, but it's like one of those things that like it is what it is, and it's just how the platform is structured. And kind of if you understood like how the platform is designed and how it's structured technically, it makes total sense. But static pages are managed in the editor. So I make a website, I have the about page, the home page, maybe an FAQ page, maybe a service page, whatever it is. Static pages are managed out of the editor. Dynamic pages, like blog pages, product pages, booking pages, we have all sorts of dynamic built, templatized dynamic pages. Those are managed out of the dashboard. If you add custom dynamic pages, let's say you want to have like, millions of service pages, like service area pages, like for all your different locations, you probably want to use the CMS to do that. And the CMS basically works out of the dashboard. It's like very like, if I could, figure like a very fancy spreadsheet where you can really easily create content. Adding title tags and meta descriptions to those pages sometimes could be a little bit, not tricky, but like it's like a little bit of a workaround. Whereas we have in every non-custom dynamic page, whether it's a blog page or a product page or your static pages, we have something called the SEO panel. And the SEO panel, you pull it up and you can edit the URL and you can edit the title tag and the meta description. You can add structured data and you can edit, click off to check off, different robust meta tags, all these kind of things, canonical tags. But for these custom dynamic pages that are part of the CMS, there is no SEO panel in the same way. There is one, but editing or customizing the title tag is a little bit of like not a workaround, but it requires multiple steps. You first have to create a field in the CMS itself for title or title tag, whatever you want to call it. And then in where you're actually managing the settings for that page in the editor, you have to tell the editor, pull the title tag from that field in the CMS. So people sometimes don't think like, oh, how do I can't do a title tag here. No, you totally can. It's just a few more steps than it normally is. And that's another common mistake that I think I see people make. I've had people ask me about that on Twitter a few times.
Amazing. These are great. You actually already probably answered this question, but just in case, if there are any other like tips or workarounds for known challenges of configurations in Wix that you will think that are worthy to mention here?
I'm trying to think of like other like really like most of it's pretty intuitive and most of it's pretty straightforward. One of them to realize that we add website structured data markup to the page automatically. I think we need to make. I think I need to bring this up to the product team and tell them like you need to show that in the when you add structured data to a page, we usually list it. So for example, if you added a business address to the home page of your website, we automatically create local business structured data markup, and you'll see it there that it's added there. I don't think, I have to double check this, that we show the website structured data markup like we have your like the website like they use for the favicons, right? The website, sorry, for the website name on the SERP. So that structured data is there, but I don't think we tell you that it's there, which I think we need to do a better job telling you that that's there.
Amazing.
Which I'm gonna actually make a note about that.
Yeah. I'm happy to see that the cold Q&A is being actually useful to remind you about that. That's always good.
Because I was noticing the other day, I'm like, oh, wait a second, it's there, but I don't see that it's showing up, and I forgot to bring it up to them.
Cool. So another related question here regarding those apps that I see that the Wix app market has now, and I see quite a few SEO Lee, SE ranking, so many third-party tools that are now offering integration with Wix. In some cases, this is free. In some cases, these are available to clients that they just paid an additional access or fee for the access, right? So what will you say are the top ones that users should totally check out because they are free and useful, and which are the ones that are paid that you see that are very worthy to pay for if there's a relevant scenario?
So most of the apps on the SEO side have a freemium model. So for example, we have an integration, a direct integration with SEMrush. Mm-hmm. So there's multiple access points. We have an SEO setup checklist. So when you're starting to get your site set up, and that's where you can do that one-click connection to Search Console and instantly get the homepage indexed. Part of that is part of what Google required was you have to optimize the title tag, you have to optimize the H1, you have to optimize the meta description. So the way we do that is we help you like pick a focus keyword, and there's a SEMrush integration that helps you do that. We have an on-page SEO audit tool for blog pages and product pages, and in there you can also use the SEMrush integration to pick a keyword. That's a freemium model. So SEMrush has a freemium model in general, where you don't have to pay them anything and you can use whatever tools. They just put that plan inside of Wix for the keywords at least. So you get, I forgot the number, I think it's like 10 keyword or 5 keyword searches every day, something like that. And so you don't have to have you have to have an account, which will, if you don't have a SEMrush account, when you're connecting with Wix to SEMrush, we'll like make the connection for you and set up an account, but you don't have to pay for it. The same with SE ranking. I think you get 10 free lifetime uses. That's a great app, by the way. They put an absolute ton of insights into that app. There's an Uberall app. There's a Lumar app, or formerly known as Deep Crawl. I think we still call it Deep Crawl. We have to update that, or they need to update that. I think they need to update that. That one is not a freemium. That I think is like $7, $8 a month. I think that one's actually, I think for an SEO, I don't want to put my foot in my mouth here. Like that one probably isn't as valuable However, it's valuable if you have a client who wants to keep up on the website after you're done with the website, because it's really simplified. It's pretty cheap. And as opposed to like, if you use Screaming Frog, most clients would be like, I don't know what the heck this is. Like, I see spreadsheet. But the way that DeepCrawl Lumar designed it, it's really straightforward. You can really see where the errors are. So I would probably recommend, if you have a client who wants to keep up on the SEO on their own, or like monitor things while you're away, so to speak, that's probably a nice little app for them. There's marketing apps, there's Printful, there's Klaviyo, Constant Contact. If you want to get out of the SEO a little bit, there's a ton of apps. We have native integrations with Amazon, Google Tag Manager, Meta Pixel, TikTok Pixel. So there's a ton of marketing stuff there also.
Amazing, amazing. So plenty of add-ons and apps to play around and validate.
Yeah, if you like plugins, you have, we call them apps. They're not as, to borrow a word from Crystal Carter, they're not as janky because Wix is a little more stable. But yeah, check them out.
That's amazing. Without the risk that
without the risk of like it'll break the website, or again, like that's the trade-off. You probably have like way more plugins or apps available in WordPress, just because like that's such a plugin based environment. We are working very hard to bring more and more. We've brought a lot of people over into the Wix app market. But again, the positive side is that we might have fewer, but the ones that are there are not going to break your website, and they're not going to be create any vulnerabilities.
That's great. That's great to hear. Then let's talk about AI, right? I know that every platform out there or tool out there and their mother is adding AI as a layer of functionality, right? We know that, for example, the other platforms that are now even offering to generate descriptions by default, or content by default with AI with one click. So they're integrating AI related functionalities in one way or another. I saw that Wix is actually taking this the extra next step by even allowing people to design their whole websites with AI just using prompts, which is mind-blowing. So please tell us all the opportunities and functionalities that Wix already has using AI related functionalities at different levels, and where this is going, because I can definitely see that there's something new every month.
Yeah, so I saw someone threw in the chat the ADI. So we've had like an AI-based website builder for a long time. That's not to be confused. We announced a couple of months ago, a couple of months ago, I think, that we're releasing a new AI website builder, which is coming out. I don't know the exact timeline, but I think it's coming imminently. The ADI is there. You can basically spin up a website with a couple of prompts, but that's not the full-on website AI builder that we're talking about in the last couple of months that we've been releasing, or talking about releasing rather. Outside of that, we have an integration with OpenAI where you can create content for your web pages. So for your product, product descriptions, you want to spin up the homepage. I recommend, of course, like whatever you do with the integration with OpenAI to create actual content, you need to make sure that that's exactly what you want. I would unequivocally say you need to add your own spice and your own flavor to that content. Like, I don't want to say, yeah, just go ahead, create content. No, it's there as a way to help you do things faster. On the SEO side, we just released 2 weeks ago, I think, at Brighton SEO, actually, in San Diego, an AI meta tags writer. So you can spin up title tags and meta descriptions, and you can choose the tone of voice. I actually ran a poll. I took Barry's title tags, and I took his articles and copy and paste them into the Wix, into a blog that I have, and it had the AI generate title tags, and I ran a poll, and conclusively, with 25 votes, people said that the AI tags are better than Barry's. So I don't know, you would take that as you will. And also, and on this one, I'm not just a spokesperson, I'm a client. If you go to my LinkedIn and you see all my posts with all these like images, I use the Wix AI image creator to do that. Anywhere you upload an image into Wix, there's like, whether it's on a static page or say in a blog post, and you click upload to upload an image, on the left-hand nav is a thing for an AI image creator. And I freaking love it, because on Twitter, I have GIFs. All right, fine. But on LinkedIn, I can't integrate a GIF the same kind of way. So I use the Wix AI image generator to spin up images really quickly. And they're great. I prefer the sketch. Like you have like different like styles. I find the sketch one to be really cool, which is why most of mine are sketches.
Amazing, amazing. Well, that's a very cool tip also to leverage the functionality of the platform for many different use cases.
Yeah, because you can download the images. So I just like create the image and then download it.
Cool, cool. That's really
Yeah.
good. Let's imagine that you have convinced us all to migrate all of our sites to Wix. There's this question about the migration functionality and how easy it is if you provide functionality or support to make it easy. How does it work with the major platforms out there?
Okay, so I'll answer like both, migrating both ways. So we have tools inbuilt to help you, let's say, go from WordPress to Wix. Right, I think you would expect that from us to do that because we want to take websites that are on WordPress and convert them to Wix. Like we're not hiding that. That's what we want to do. Which, by the way, I will say something like, and I've said this, not Daily Mouth, for head of SEO on the product side, it says this: it would not be healthy for the web if every website was on a single CMS. Right? It wouldn't be healthy for the web to have every website on WordPress, and it wouldn't be healthy for every website to be on Wix. It's good there's diversity of CMSs. With that, if you are on, I'll answer the other way. If you are on Wix and you want to go to another platform, let's say you want to go to Shopify, there are on the Shopify side plugins or apps, I don't know what they call them, or programs, whatever, that will take your product pages, for example, and move them over to Shopify. Where you're going to get hung up is on static pages. So and this is where I think you'll see people talking online saying, oh, it's impossible to move off of Wix. Don't go to Wix, they'll own your content forever. It's impossible to move off of. It's not true for like blog pages, for dynamic pages, like product pages, all sorts of platforms and all sorts of plugins on you. If you go to the plugin market, whatever, in WordPress, and you look it up, you'll find plugins that'll help you move over a Wix site into WordPress. Where you're going to have issues, though, are the static pages. So the home page and like the about page and the FAQ page, like those kind of static pages, those you would probably have to redesign for the most part on the new platform that you have. But at the end of the day, you're usually talking about like 3 or 4 pages. So like that's like the give and take.
That's great. That's great to hear, to know that there are different options and opportunities there. And finally, there's a question here that I think is interesting, right? Is there a custom self-hosting option available with Wix, or there isn't? And because you only directly offer.
No, yeah, we only And again, like, I mean, people, one of the critiques like I see out there, like still there, like maybe more on Reddit than like on the Twitter crowd, is like, oh, I can't touch the server. And I've been in like conversations with John Mueller about this on Twitter, like, don't touch the server, you're gonna get locked out. Like, there are very few cases where you really want to like touch the server. And if that is a case, by the way, where you really need to actually legitimately act, then don't use Wix, because that's not what that's for, right? We're there for, I don't want to mess with the server. I'd rather focus on other things. You have a great CDN network, a global CDN. I'm cool with that. I don't have to worry about security. I don't have to worry about reliability. We have like 99.9% uptime. That's who we're there for. So again, if you're, hosting is your model for your agency, like that's an issue. If providing, I don't know, let's say this like tongue in cheek, if providing quality services to your clients at your agency is more of your focus than, let's say, like web hosting money, then Wix might be a great option. Like it's all give and take. So no, you can host, but also no, you don't have to worry about security and reliability.
Amazing. Well, that's great to hear, because I think that in general, we always assume that the best option is the one that gives you more control and flexibility. And that might be true in certain scenarios, but in many others, it's just like, you don't need the hassle. You don't want the hassle. With certain limitations on the access, with the access will be already good.
Oh yeah, look, we offer like 2 different like platforms. We have Wix, we have something called Wix Studio. So Wix Studio is built for agencies, and it's you can have like pixel perfect design. On that one, by the way, you can actually access and customize the CSS, which does have some SEO implications sometimes for performance. But if you were to ask me, like if you're you know, a solo business owner or whatever it is, like I wouldn't use Wix Studio. Like if I were spinning up a website myself, I am not a designer, I'm not a developer. I like to create content and I like to do SEO. I would use a regular Wix platform and not Wix Studio because it's much simpler. So again, even within the Wix ecosystem, you need to know what you need and you need to know like what you want. And I guess we need to do a good job of telling you what's available so that you can make the decision, because even in the Wix ecosystem, like if you want something more customizable, more complex, then yeah, go ahead with Wix Studio. If you don't, right, as an SEO, I'd rather use Wix sometimes for my own personal websites.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Amazing, amazing. So thank you very much for your time, Mordy. I think that you have pretty much clarified all of the doubts that the participants had. Actually, I have to say that I see a last question here, but very, very quickly, because yeah, I don't want to take more of your time that you have being very kind to give us, about if there's a cap on the number of pages that can be built on Wix.
No, okay. So there's a cap on the number of static pages. You think you can have like 100 static pages? I think we should open that up, but fine. There's no limit to the amount of actual pages. So like if you run out of static pages, I'd be like very rare that you could run out of 100 static pages, then you could just use dynamic pages. There's really not much of a practical difference between the two.
Amazing, amazing. Well, there's an additional clarification then. And hopefully after all of this questions, it will help you to, let's say, prioritize a little bit more on certain aspects of the tool. Hopefully that's
and if you're listening to this or if you're in the audience right here and you have questions, just find me. I'm happy to answer them. Like,
yeah, I have to say that Mordy is, as you can see, super friendly, super open, which you can definitely tell with how the platform has evolved in the last few years, right? Because I believe that they have the advantage of having people within the community always willing to interact and hear and take those requests to the product team and then ship surprisingly fast. That I wish many of my clients, SEO clients, did that with the recommendations that I gave.
We love feedback, and I'll take it right to the team. Like it's like, I mean, honestly, it just helps us. Like, why wouldn't we take the feedback?
100%, 100%. Amazing. So thank you very much, Mordy. It has been a pleasure. So insightful. I really appreciate your time and how you have gotten into each answer at a very, very in-depth basis to clarify all the doubts. And thank you to the participants. Stay tuned for the next section that will be about Shopify SEO, so we can continue also going through the different platforms and discover all of the pros and cons and opportunities for SEO. Thank you very much and have a good day. Bye-bye.